Right now, it doesn't seem like the rise that we've seen in gas prices at the pump, which have reached the highest since 2024, it doesn't seem like that is creating any off-ramps that are foreseeable, at least right now, for markets.
Let's extend the conversation. A good friend of this program over the years, the Republican Congressman French Hill, joins us now for more. Congressman Hill, welcome back to the program. Are you satisfied with the rationale for this operation in Iran?
Well, Jonathan, it's good to be with you. Yes, I am. I mean, this has been 50 years of counting American bodies that caused at the hands of the IRGC, the Quds Force, Iranian IEDs. This has been a long-standing gray zone war between Iran and the West for all these years. And the president set out the goal of they will not obtain a nuclear weapon, and we have not been successful in 4 different presidential administrations of achieving that through negotiation. And the Israelis are concerned with the advancing ballistic missile development technology sharing by Iran, plus the continued dedication to producing a nuclear weapon, that risk in the region had reached a breaking point.
There is, as you know, Congressman, a domestic price to pay in more ways than one. Unfortunately, for this conversation, we're going to focus on the market aspect. There are much more important issues at play as well. Gas prices are climbing. What's your assessment of the disruption to energy flows, 1, and 2, the kind of remedies that the U.S. government can offer right now?
Well, I think some of the remedies are, you've heard Treasury Secretary Bessent talk about supporting the insurance markets. Of course, the United States Navy is going to do their part to support transit of the Strait of Hormuz, which benefits everyone in the markets. But as you pointed out in your reporting, you've just got a risk at the margin of Iran striking a production facility or a transit ship. And so that has really chilled the oil transit market in the Gulf. I think this is temporary. I think it's going to be handled over the next few weeks. I don't think it's going to have a permanent impact on the oil markets. If you think about Iran's contribution to oil production, 80% of it's been sold to China, and during the first Trump administration, it was completely shut down in terms of production due to then maximum pressure sanction campaign that was undone by the Biden administration, with Biden letting them back into the oil markets and back into the financial markets and freeing up a bunch of frozen assets. So I think this, I don't believe will have a lasting effect on markets, but certainly has an important short-term effect, as we're seeing in oil markets and in the insurance markets.
Congressman, would you support measures like using and tapping the SPR, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, to try to mitigate some of the price increases, even in the short term, that people are already feeling when they go fill up their cars?
Well, I think that's a decision the Treasury Secretary and the Cabinet needs to make. If they think that's in the right reason, then I certainly would urge them to consider it. We experienced that with Joe Biden during the Russia invasion of Ukraine, and it was microscopic. The actual hit, the cents per barrel from a Strategic Petroleum Reserve release are not that measurable. So if the whole production and distribution of oil were disrupted, then that might make a bigger contribution. But we saw, even in the Russian case, that was not worth, in my judgment, draining the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, which Joe Biden did. As you know, Europe pivoted and the Gulf pivoted, and the sources of both oil and gas quickly replumbed their distribution to benefit Europe after that invasion. So I think that was a premature decision by Joe Biden.
Congressman, there also are some strategic questions that Congress has to face, including how to prepare the United States better and, frankly, restock some of the munitions that are being depleted. There's a $50 billion bill currently in your hands, in your House, and I'm just wondering, would you support an additional funding measure to try to help stockpile some additional supplies should this be a prolonged conflict, and if there are any additional conflicts in the future?
Well, there was a significant work on that in the big, beautiful bill last summer. There was $9 billion allocated to the Pentagon to specifically work on the munitions supply chain. We've certainly seen that taken to action in Arkansas, in Camden, Arkansas, where we've seen a significant increase in munitions in rocket engine production because of the Pentagon's focus on supply chain. Plus, yesterday we just marked up in the House Financial Services Committee the reauthorization and modernization of the Defense Production Act, which specifically focused on obviously DoD production, but also the medical supply chain and the critical mineral supply chain. And we think that's a good bill. It came out of committee 41-0, so it's a strong bipartisan bill, and we're working with the administration on that. But both the Armed Services Committees and the Defense Production Act, the Treasury, are all working on that munitions supply chain. But with all that said, and the money that we've already set aside in the big, beautiful bill, I think if military operations continue in the Gulf, I think the Congress will be confronted with a supplemental appropriation to support that effort.
Congressman, you are the chair of the House Financial Services Committee, of course. Now would be a good time to hear from Chairman Pell. Are there any plans to have that semi-annual testimony anytime soon?
You bet. We have invited him. We're trying to find a date and coordinate that date with the Senate Banking Committee because we typically do those hearings back to back. So I hope that can happen soon.
Are you hopeful that happens this month?
I hope it happens soon.
I'll leave it there. Congressman, thank you. The Republican Congressman French Hill there, hoping that happens soon. We're still waiting.
Yeah, we're